Hey, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to Lifestyle Locker Radio, episode 139. This is the Race 100, our second episode. These are going to be short and sweet. It's just a recap of my week. I want to bring you on this amazing journey that I'm going on myself, going to be running a 100-mile race in October. So these episodes will go until then and probably a week after, so we can talk about a little bit of long-term recovery after an event like this and what the next steps are and what the next things are. So I'd like to start off every episode of the Race 100 with a quote. I'm going to read this quote off my phone here so you can see my phone. Right there we go. Running is nothing more than a series of arguments between the part of your brain that wants to stop and the part that wants to keep going, and that's by Unknown. And I think that's an amazing quote because the battle of running or distance running is always a battle in between your ears. You may not run as fast as some other people, you may not run as long as some other people, but that doesn't make a difference. If you're doing the act of running, that's what counts. And if you're moving your body, right? If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, right? You've heard these quotes before. I think one's by Martin Luther King. But make sure you are putting constant movement into your life, because this is where change can happen. This is where you can become self-inspired to keep moving forward, right? A lot of people ask me, like, who are you running from? And I don't think I'm running from anyone. I think I'm running towards something. I'm running toward that unknown. I'm running towards the evolution of myself, the evolution of change, right, within myself. So let's look at the week and what it entailed for me and how it may be able to help you in your adventure and your ventures as a runner, as an athlete, as an active human being. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here for those of you that are listening to the podcast. I'm going to be talking through as well. This is live on Facebook and will be shared on YouTube as well. So when we look at the week, this is my Garmin Connect. All right. So I have the month open to the month of July to see what is going on with this month. Where did I start and where did I finish? So I ran my first month, right? The first week of the month, which was July 1st through the 7th, I ran 44.26 miles. All right, so that was great. A lot of work, a lot of fun, challenging distance nonetheless. 44 miles in 1 week, 44.26 miles. And why this evolution you're going to see is important, because by the time I get to the event, I mentioned this on the last episode, I like to have a running bank built. And before my ultra, I want to make sure that I'm able to get 100 miles in my running bank. I need to make sure that I'm able to get 100 miles in 1 week, which may pose to be very challenging. That's why I'm going to do it weeks out and before the event, because this may mean overnight runs. This may mean rucking, moving my body. It may not only be running. It may be a lot of activity, not biking, all foot powered, leading to that 100 miles, because that has to be done, and I have to be able to do that to accomplish 100 miles in one go. All right. So if you look at the next week, it was 51.92, which was actually last week, which was huge challenge for me. That was the longest distance, I believe, in 1 week that I've ever ran. It was my longest race. Even though I did a 50-mile ruck, my longest ultra was a 50K. Okay? So that meant that when I was training for the 50K race, my running bank had to only have 32 miles in it, because that needed to consistently move for 32 miles in one clip to complete the ultra marathon. So going forward, I set a goal to jump up 5%. And for those of you that live in the Northeast that have experienced this week has been a hellish week on temperature and humidity. We've hit today and yesterday, we are experiencing heat indexes of triple digits, like 105 to 110 degrees, with a light breeze, which doesn't really help, because when you have a breeze at 100 plus degrees, it feels like a hot sauna blowing on you. It does not cool you down. So give me 1 second. I'm going to open up my week in review here so I can share with you what I've actually learned And from each of those days, I do take notes, and I want to share these with you. My running, well, I'll start with today. And I know some of you watched the video that I posted on social media today. Today was a indoor run. It was the first indoor run that I have done in a long time. I've really been avoiding the treadmill just because I love being in nature, love being outside. It's how I'm going to be doing my ultra marathon. So experiencing outside is much more important. I mean, natural sunlight, all the above, that's fresh air, that's important, right? I'm not running in air conditioning. But today I had to run indoors, at 7 a.m. The temperature was I think about 90 degrees. It was like high 80s, so we were pushing mid 90s at 7 a.m. with the heat index and the breeze. And I did that for the whole week outdoors, pushing myself through here. So I wanted to give my body a heat break rather than spend 2 to 3 hours out in the sun, because there are no clouds, and this heat and humidity. I went through almost 2 gallons, maybe a little bit more than actually 2 gallons over the course of the day yesterday of water, including hydration and salt tablets, which I shared on the last episode. I drank so much water, and I still am drinking water, as we speak, like trying to keep recouping, catching up. I feel like I'm actually playing catch up with drinking water, because it's in this heat, you sweat. I mean, I take my shirt off, my shorts off, and I can wring them out and they will drip. That's how much I'm expelling water, trying to keep my body cool in this extreme heat. But what's important about it is this: if I can train in these extreme, if you will, extreme conditions, if you train in these extreme conditions, training and racing in different and easier conditions are easier, right? So if you push your body above and beyond where you're capable of going, then you're able to have things easier down the road, right? So let me just do the week in review here for you. So this week, here we go. Day 1, we did 10.26 miles. That was an hour 42. That was not too bad, a little stressful. I had to do a little bit of walking here and there. Then again, I want you to picture this. 1, for yourself, and 2, for me going through this event, is when you're going to be completing long times on your feet, it's okay to take a little bit of a break. I'm not saying stop. I don't necessarily want to do too much stopping during these events or during these run walks or runs. If I slow myself down, it's going to accomplish 2 things. If my heart rate is racing because I'm getting burned out, like if I'm pushing like 165, 175, that's a lot for me. I need to bring it down for myself into, we call like that orange zone or whatever. There's 5 different zones, but if I'm in like that 140 range, 145 range, I can move consistently. So by slowing myself down, I can actually lower my heart rate for a little bit, at maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But what that does, that calms my mind down at the same time. That's super important, because when you're doing this, your mind needs to be okay. I mean, you heard the quote in the beginning, right? You need to actually let your mind calm itself a little bit so you can keep pushing forward, so you don't end up quitting. That's not what you're out to do. Quitting is not an option. You may need to slow down and slow your pace, but you may not run as fast as the next person. And I'm okay with that personally, because I know the choo-choo train that keeps going is going to win. All right, and when I mean winning for myself. So that was day 1. It was run walk, 10 and change miles, 10.26. The next day was a hot mother. It was nuts. That was full-blown heat and humidity. That was a 13.3. Pushed 13.3. Really it was hot. It was hot and humid. I was testing salt tablets again, like 1 and 2 here and there. Hydrating. The biggest challenges that I find in these long runs, so there's 2 things. One, I stopped, which I mentioned earlier. I stopped using earbuds. I'm not listening to music or anything when I run. Today was an exception to the rule. I'll tell you that at the end. I'm not running with earbuds because the hardest thing to do, and I think the best thing to do, is pay attention to what's going on in between your ears. Those 5 or 6 inches in between your ears, because you're constantly talking to yourself, and you're either listening to the voices in your head saying, stop, stop, just stop, or you're being proactive and productive and you're moving forward. You're talking to those voices back saying, hey, I'm in control here. One step in front of the other. And when I start to check my heart rate, if my heart rate is good, I know my head is lying, right? I may feel a little achy here, may feel a little twinge there, but if I keep consistent, keep the pace that I'm keeping, if I need to slow down, I will, but I'm able to go through. And I hate to say push through, but I'm not here to injure myself. That's not the goal. But that's what has to happen, right? So the 13.3 was my first half marathon of the month, and it was good. It was really, really good. The following day, I did an RTR. And for those of you that have followed me on social media, Instagram or Facebook, I'll put up something called an RTR, which is a run, train, run. And for depending on the day, I will put in anywhere between 7 and 10 miles during these RTRs. So I'll run, like for instance, this week on the day, I believe it was Thursday, I did an RTR, and I did a 4 mile there to the gym, trained at the gym, did a circuit of calisthenics and some body weight, and then I did a 4 mile back. Those are always challenging. I love those because you get your heart rate up, cruising on the way to the gym. When you get into the gym, check in, I get my race vest off, take some water. I'll calm down a little bit so my heart rate can calm. And when I'm working out with weights, my heart rate doesn't really go that high. I can level out at like that 100 beat per minute, or maybe just sub that during my workout. Even though I'm still sweating and pushing, I haven't stopped sweating from the run in, being that it's been almost 90 plus degrees. What happens is I do that, so my heart rate stays low. I'm hydrating during this event, still taking the salt capsule as I go. I'll train for about 30 to 40 minutes depending on the day, depending on what I do, and then I run back. The run back is usually a little slower. For me, it's mostly uphill back to my house. I know that sounds crazy. It's downhill to the gym, which is great for the quads. It's a killer for the quads. And then it's mostly uphill back. So I get to challenge muscles differently in both directions, but that run up is always a little more challenging. And what I'm finding out is that, based on today's run, because it was indoors, the heat really does play a huge, huge, huge role. The sun plays a huge mental role, because I'm getting cooked in the sun like the whole time. And I'm pretty tan. I mean, I don't know how I look on a computer screen, but I'm pretty tan, and I'm not getting burnt at all. And I'm in the sun for 2 hours a lot of times at a clip, or sometimes I'm getting close to that 3 hour mark, and I'm not getting burned. So, and I don't need suntan lotion or any of that stuff. I'm not a weekend warrior, as you can tell. I'm constantly outdoors doing these things. So back to the RTR, I think that's a great way to build some change in your training regimen, where you'll start to add some of the physicality of different body parts, because sometimes I'll do what they're called wall balls, and it sounds weird if you've never heard of that. It's a CrossFit term, but I'll grab a 20-pound ball, right, like this medicine ball, and I'll go ahead and we'll do full squat, and we'll go ahead and I'll throw it up about 10 feet in the air, catch it into a full squat, and do that, and I'll do rounds of that as part of my circuit training. So my legs that just got worked for 4 to 6 miles on the way in are gonna get some more physical work. They're gonna get some weight bearing work. And then obviously the run back. So that Thursday was a brutal one. Even though it wasn't as much mileage, those are definitely good and challenging days, because it's a different mindset in each place that I'm training. The next one, yesterday, which was Saturday. Saturday was an outdoor run. Saturday was the first day of our full-blown heat wave. And I think I was running in close to triple digits by the time I finished. And it was a run walk. It was pretty brutal. I think what I do here, it was my slowest distance run in a while, understood because of the heat. It was 11:43 pace, which is slow, but still in the 100-mile world, that's not bad. And I did that, and we did 13.31, or I did 13.31 miles for that, which was bonkers, right? So it was half marathon number 2 of the week and number 2 of the month. And then today, woke up a little late, went to a party yesterday, a luau at a friend's boat club. So I was outside after the run, so we hydrate, and maybe didn't have all of the best foods. I made some pretty good choices, mostly. Little to no alcohol, because I've been finding out, and I know it sounds crazy, I've been craving or wanting less alcohol in my life on a very regular basis. And I'm totally cool with that, because I've started to realize I'm starting to fine-tune my body, that it doesn't help me. Beer totally wrecks me. Maybe because it's a grain aspect, but I think I had, of all things, they had a kid carrying on Jello shots. So after like the 6th time coming over to me, I had a Jello shot. But nonetheless, there was maybe a half ounce of vodka, if that much, in there, and felt fine this morning. But I ended up sleeping in a little bit later, since we were outdoors from 5 to I think 4:35 or whatever the time the party was till 9 p.m. and it was still close to 100 degrees that whole time. So I was still sweating, still burning calories, still losing water. So I was hydrating the whole time. But my body needed some rest time. So back to the gym this morning, I opted to do an indoor run. I didn't want to burn myself out for the whole following week, because this next week is going to be different. I set my goal to hit, 10% more than 51.9 miles. So 10% more, right? If we just go 51, so 10% more would be 5.1 miles, right? So I'd be at 56 miles. So I ended up crushing. That was my goal. Let me just get there. Let me just get to whatever I need to get to hit that 56 miles. And get on the treadmill today. I'm the guy that rolls in, with I had like my compression, or, my compression, like 3/4 running shorts on, tank top on, shorts over them. I get to the gym, rip the shorts off. I'm the guy running in spandex at the gym, the one that everybody looks at going, who the hell is this guy? But I do this, so it just gets me in the headspace. But it's I love being on the treadmill. I hate being on the treadmill, but I love being on the treadmill when I show up. I'm there early. I'm the only one in the treadmill area early in the morning on a Sunday, like I was today. And I'm running, and I'm already on there for like 30 or 40 minutes, and some people show up, they start a class, and this is on the 2nd floor, so I get to see the gym moving. They run a whole hour class, they finish, they look at me, I'm still plugging along, running, right? And then they leave, the owner of the gym looks up at me, and I'm still running, so 2 hours and 18 minutes later, I end up getting off the treadmill. I think it was 14.44 miles to the dot. The only problem with the treadmills in our gym is this: is it 99 minutes, they turn off, right? It actually 95 minutes or 90, something like that, they start to cool you down. So I have to try to override it, but I have to figure out how to get it so I can get it to give me more time if I have to do these indoor runs, because I had to almost come to a dead stop and stomp my feet to keep my legs from not moving, and then start up again and keep going. So, I probably ran a little bit faster than my Garmin and the treadmill said, but because I had to ramp down and ramp back up, so be it. And I mentioned headphones and listening to music. I love listening to my own thoughts and all the thoughts that come through my head. I actually get some pretty cool ideas and come up with certain things and so on and so forth when I run, because when you're with yourself for a long time, it's bound to happen. So today I opted to say, let me just listen to an audiobook. And it was more, I listen to audiobooks all the time, but it was more to drown out the music in the gym and the people screaming and chanting during the classes and whatever they're doing down there. I wanted to be focused for myself without many distractions, or as many distractions as I can avoid. So I listened to an audiobook. The only challenge with it is when you start to get into that flow state, that zone, and we can't call it runner's high. A runner's high disappears very early in the game, right? Those endorphins go up, then they crash, and then you're like, okay, I'm on myself now. I felt good for a little bit. Now I have another hour and 45 minutes left of running without these endorphins cruising through my body. So when you get into that flow state where your neurology just gets zoned in, and it's meshing with your mind and your body now together, and you're just going, and you're focused on your mission. I was listening to the book probably for the first hour, and then it's almost like I was in a different zone, different world. So I'm gonna go back and re-listen to a book that I've already listened to once, but I want to re-listen to it. So I think running with earbuds in, maybe not the best. I mean, if you're into keeping EMF away, yes, these were wireless earbuds, is probably not the best. But I can't run with cables around. I've ripped earbuds out of my ears when I used to run with traditional headphones. So my message for the week is this: train when it's uncomfortable. Train because it's uncomfortable. It'll help you stretch your comfort zone. I never want you to get out of your comfort zone and break bones because you're running or whatever it may be. I want you to actually start to stretch. So if you're comfortable with running 1 mile, 1 run and a half next time. If you're comfortable with a 5K, shoot for a 10K in a couple of weeks. It's not that much more. I know it sounds crazy if you're not running that distance yet, and I know you're probably saying you don't have time. I have kids, I have a job, I have all of these things. You've got the time. You just have to use your time wisely. May mean getting up a half hour earlier. May mean going to sleep a half hour later. You can accomplish whatever you want if you do set your mind to it. And I know that's so true because I've had to shift and create my new schedules with my practice, with podcasting, to accommodate the stuff that I love to do, which is podcast, which is run, which is train, and it's also spending time with my wife and my family. I really don't want to forfeit one portion of my world to have another. But during this time of training for me, the other pieces understand that I'm doing this crazy training. So, we have maybe a little bit less time, not a lot less, but a little bit less, and we make it more important, more fun, more meaningful, and we have to do it that way because hell, this was 59 miles this week. In a few weeks, I may be pushing like 61, 62, 63, 65 miles, which is scary at this point because I did 3 half marathons this week and I'm only at 59. All right, I'm not, and so just so you have an update on next week's training for me is going to be more about speed. I may have 1 or 2 endurance days, but it's going to be weight training, calisthenics, and sprinting, right? I need to change up the momentum because I want to change my physiology, make sure I have the strength and conditioning to go 100 miles. My goal is not to get to give you an idea, when I started training, I was 197. I didn't weigh myself today, but I weighed myself a week in, and I was down quite a bit of weight. I was down about 12 pounds, I think. And I don't want to keep losing weight. I feel great. I love the way I look right now, but I don't want to become only a runner. I want to be an athlete. I want to be athletic. I want to be able to do what I love to do and not feel weak in any part of my body. So training this way trains my body and mind so I can actually change my physiology, so I can be the guy that if I'm hurting, my endurance muscles are hurting, I can start to connect those strength muscles to help carry me through, and then we switch back and forth during the race internally so that actually happens. So love and appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening to and watching the 139th episode of Lifestyle Locker Radio, the Race to 100, our second one. Appreciate you all. I'll talk to you soon. And make sure you do connect with me on Facebook if you're watching now, Instagram at Dr. Josh Hent. And if you're on iTunes, head over to iTunes for me. Do me a favor. Give us a 5-star review. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you're loving what you're learning on all of Lifestyle Locker Radio, the best way to say thank you is to share it with a friend and leave that review. So I appreciate you all. Have a great day, evening, or night, wherever you're watching and whenever you're watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.